Hi everyone, welcome back to a new Roblox story. This time, the story is about the Roblox game Grow a Garden. As always, not all of our stories are based on true events, but some are. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy the story, if you dare. Let us know in the comments. How many times did you do the new Beanstalk event so far? There was a boy named Mason who lived in a quiet suburb outside Seattle, Washington, where the rain fell softly most days, and the coffee shop stayed busy with tech workers and students. He was 15 years old, a sophomore at Lincoln High School, and had been completely obsessed with the Roblox game, Grow a Garden, ever since it launched 6 months ago and broke every record on the platform. What started as a simple farming simulator had become a global phenomenon, with over 20 million concurrent players and a thriving economy, where rare virtual crops sold for thousands of real dollars. Mason had started playing on launch day, March 26th, when the game was just a simple concept. Plant seeds, water them, harvest crops, repeat. But over the months, the developers had added layer after layer of complexity. Weather systems that affected crop growth, mutation mechanics that could multiply crop values by hundreds, a pet system that provided passive bonuses, trading mechanics that created a player-driven economy, and seasonal events that introduced limited-time crops and features. From his humble beginnings with the starter garden, a simple 3:2 arrangement of brown fertile plots and 20 shekels in starting currency, Mason had built a farming empire. He now owned multiple rear expansions that cost billions of shekels each, purchased through months of careful crop rotation, optimal mutation farming, and savvy trading. His gardens stretched across over 400 crop plots, representing thousands of hours of gameplay and strategic planning. The front sections of Mason's garden were dedicated to his money-making operation. Perfectly organized rows of multi-harvest plants that produced repeatedly after reaching maturity. Strawberries, with their constant fruit production and high mutation rates, filled dozens of plots in the northeast corner. Tomatoes, which benefited enormously from pet bonuses, occupied the central growing area. Corn, with its tall stalks that could reach enormous sizes with proper sprinkler usage, dominated the western section. Bell peppers, a more recent addition that Mason had discovered during the summer harvest event, provided steady income in the southern plots. But the crown jewel of Mason's garden was the rear section, where his divine tier crops grew in carefully protected areas. A massive beanstalk towered over everything else, its stalk reaching impossibly high into the virtual sky, and its value climbing higher every day as it continued growing. The beanstalk had been Mason's most expensive purchase, 50 billion shekels for a single seed during a rare Sam's Shop restock. But it was also his most valuable asset, worth over 200 billion shekels at current market rates. Next to the beanstalk, an elder strawberry plant produced golden fruit every few hours, each harvest worth millions of shekels and occasionally blessed with rare mutations that multiplied its value exponentially. Mason had gotten incredibly lucky with this plant, purchasing it during the Easter event when divine tier seeds were briefly more common, and it had since become one of his most reliable sources of income. His newest addition was a sugar apple that glowed with internal light, casting shifting shadows on nearby plants and creating an almost hypnotic visual effect. The sugar apple was unique among divine tier crops because it had both single harvest and multi-harvest varieties. Mason's was the ultra-rare multi-harvest type that continued producing after maturity, making it incredibly valuable for long-term farming strategies. Mason's gaming setup was impressive for a 15-year-old, representing months of saving allowance money and birthday cash. He had a high-end gaming computer his parents bought him for his birthday, after seeing his grades improve dramatically. Gaming had actually motivated him to do better in school so his parents wouldn't limit his screen time. 3 monitors dominated his desk: the main 27-inch display for gameplay, a secondary monitor for Discord servers and trading channels, and a smaller third screen for YouTube tutorials and community guides. His mechanical keyboard clicked satisfyingly as he typed out trades and checked Sam's shop restocks every 5 minutes with military precision. The walls of his room were covered with printed screenshots of his rarest achievements. A rainbow beanstalk worth 50 times normal value that he'd gotten during a lightning storm, a gold sugar apple that glowed like a tiny sun and attracted other players from across the server, and his crown jewel, a shocked elder strawberry he'd obtained during a thunderstorm that was worth over 1 billion shekels and made him briefly famous in the trading community. Mason kept detailed spreadsheets tracking his crop values, mutation rates, optimal harvesting times, and profit margins. He had calculated that his total net worth in Grow a Garden was approaching 500 billion shekels, putting him in the top 1% of all players globally. But more than the virtual wealth, Mason loved the sense of progression and achievement the game provided. Every day brought new goals to work toward, whether it was saving up for another expansion, trying to get a rare mutation, or helping newer players learn the complex mechanics. His two best friends, Riley Chen and Blake Rodriguez, shared his passion for the game, but brought different strengths to their group dynamic. The three had met in 8th grade and bonded over their shared love of gaming, particularly games that required strategy and long-term planning. While other kids their age were into sports or social media, Mason, Riley, and Blake spent their free time mastering complex game systems and building virtual achievements. Riley was the mutation specialist of their trio, a tall, quiet kid with an analytical mind who approached Grow a Garden like a science experiment. He had memorized every weather pattern, every mutation type, and every probability calculation in the game. Riley could predict with startling accuracy when rain events would occur, which servers were most likely to experience thunderstorms, and exactly which crops were optimal for different mutation farming strategies. Riley's room was covered with handwritten charts, tracking weather patterns across different servers, mutation success rates for various crop combinations, and optimal timing strategies for using sprinklers during weather events. He subscribed to multiple Discord servers that tracked real-time weather data and maintained automated bots that sent alerts when rare weather events were detected. Riley's dedication to understanding the game's underlying systems had made him invaluable to their group's success. Blake Rodriguez was their trading expert, a charismatic kid with an intuitive understanding of market psychology and player behavior. Where Riley focused on the technical aspects of the game, Blake understood the human element, what players wanted, what they were willing to pay, and how to negotiate deals that benefited everyone involved. Blake maintained friendships with players across dozens of private servers, giving him access to exclusive trading opportunities and rare items that never appeared on public markets. Blake's phone was constantly buzzing with Discord notifications from trading channels, private deal discussions, and market update bots. He could recite the current market value of every pet in the game, from common mooncats that gave size bonuses to legendary dragonflies that increased gold mutation chances by significant percentages. Blake always carried multiple trading tickets in his inventory, the 100,000 shekel items required for secure player-to-player trades, and had built a reputation as a fair and trustworthy trader in the community. The three friends had developed complementary specializations that made them incredibly effective as a team. Mason focused on garden optimization and long-term planning. Riley handled weather tracking and mutation farming, and Blake managed their trading relationships and market strategies. Together, they had achieved more in Grow a Garden than any of them could have accomplished alone. Their friendship extended beyond gaming, though. They studied together, hung out at each other's houses, and supported each other through the typical struggles of high school life. Mason was dealing with his parents' increasing pressure to focus more on academics and less on gaming. Riley was working through social anxiety that made it hard for him to connect with classmates outside their small group. Blake was navigating his parents' divorce and the stress of living between two households. Gaming provided an escape and a common ground where they could succeed together, build something meaningful, and support each other through virtual achievements and shared goals. Their success in Grow a Garden had given them confidence that carried over into other areas of their lives. The sleepover they had planned for this Friday night represented months of coordination and excitement. Mason's parents were out of town visiting his aunt in Portland, his first time being home alone overnight, and they had received permission for the ultimate Grow a Garden marathon. No bedtime, no interruptions, and access to multiple private servers where serious players conducted high-value trades and exclusive events. "This is going to be absolutely epic," Mason said as he finished setting up the basement gaming area late Friday afternoon. He'd moved his main computer down from his bedroom and arranged 2 folding tables for Riley and Blake's laptops. The basement was perfect for extended gaming sessions. No windows to provide distraction, comfortable temperature, and enough space for snacks and drinks without cluttering their gaming areas. Riley arrived first at 6 o'clock, his Honda Civic packed with gaming equipment and enough energy drinks to fuel a small LAN party. "I've been monitoring the weather prediction channels all week," he said excitedly as he unpacked his laptop and external monitor. "The Discord bots are showing some incredible weather patterns tonight. At least 3 major thunderstorm cycles are predicted across different server regions, plus something unusual I've never seen before." Riley pulled up his weather tracking spreadsheet, showing color-coded charts that looked more like meteorological research than gaming data. "Look at these patterns. Normal thunderstorms happen maybe once every few hours per server. But tonight, the prediction algorithms are showing concentrated storm activity in specific regions, almost like the weather system is being artificially amplified." Mason leaned over to examine Riley's data. "What does that mean for mutation farming? If the predictions are accurate, we could see multiple overlapping weather events, rain leading directly into thunderstorms, frost events following immediately after storms, maybe even some of the legendary weather types that only appear during special circumstances." Riley's eyes lit up with the kind of excitement that only fellow gamers could truly understand. "Do you realize what kind of mutations we could get? Shocked crops are worth 50 to 100 times normal value. If we can time our planting perfectly with divine tier crops, we could make more shekels tonight than we usually make in a month," Mason finished, feeling his own excitement building. Blake arrived 20 minutes later with his own sophisticated setup and a serious expression that indicated he had important news to share. "I've got updates from the trading channels," he announced, immediately pulling up Discord on his phone and laptop simultaneously. "Remember that player who claimed they got the first ever celestial mutation during a meteor shower? Well, they're confirmed legitimate and they're taking offers tonight." Blake shared his screen showing screenshots from exclusive trading servers that required invitation and verification to join. The images showed a transcendent bone blossom, already the rarest crop tier in the game, with a celestial mutation that made it glow with star-like light and display a value of over 1 trillion shekels. "1 trillion!" Riley's voice cracked with disbelief. "That's more shekels than most players accumulate in their entire gaming careers." "Right. And here's the thing. The player who owns it is taking serious offers starting at midnight tonight. They've created a private server specifically for high-value traders, and I managed to get us invites through my connections in the Mooncat breeding community." Blake held up his phone, showing 3 Discord messages with server links and access codes. Mason felt his heart racing as he stared at the screenshots. A celestial transcendent bone blossom represented the absolute pinnacle of Grow a Garden achievements. Getting one would make them legendary in the community, ensuring their names would be remembered among the greatest players of all time. "How much do you think they want for it?" Mason asked, though he suspected the answer would be discouraging. "Probably more than we have individually," Blake admitted. "But maybe we can pool our resources. Between the 3 of us, we've got around 230 billion shekels in liquid currency, plus rare pets, event-exclusive items, and other valuable assets that could be included in a trade package." Riley was already calculating in his head. "If we combined everything we own, including pets and rare crops, we might be able to put together a package worth 300 to 400 billion shekels. but that's still way short of 1 trillion. Unless, Blake said with a grin, we get incredibly lucky with mutations tonight. If Riley's weather predictions are accurate, and if we can hit some high-value mutations on our divine crops, we could multiply our wealth by 10 or 20 times before the trading event starts. The three friends had been playing Grow a Garden together since its launch, learning the intricate systems through countless hours of experimentation, research, and collaboration. They had progressed from complete beginners who struggled to afford basic seeds to sophisticated players who understood advanced strategies that most of the player base had never heard of. They had mastered the fundamental mechanics first. The 5-minute shop restock cycles at Sam's green and white striped store, the optimal use of sprinklers to boost crop growth speed and size, the complex pet system where different animals provided various passive bonuses to nearby plants. Then they had learned about the mutation system that could transform ordinary crops into incredibly valuable variants through weather events, random chance, or specific combinations of pets and sprinklers. Weather-based mutations were the most reliable way to multiply crop values. Rain events occurred roughly every 20 minutes and provided a 50% chance for wet mutations that doubled crop value. Frost events were rarer, but offered chilled or frozen mutations worth 2 to 10 times normal value. Thunderstorms were the holy grail of weather farming, providing shocked mutations that could multiply crop value by 50 to 100 times. But beyond weather mutations, there were even rarer variants that appeared through random chance or special circumstances. Gold mutations occurred with roughly 1% probability and provided a 20 times multiplier, causing crops to shimmer with golden light and attract attention from across the server. Rainbow mutations were incredibly rare at 0.1% chance, but offered 50 times value and created beautiful prismatic effects around affected plants. The rarest mutations of all were the legendary variants that appeared only during special events or extraordinary circumstances. Celestial mutations occurred during meteor showers and provided value multipliers of over 100 times. Aurora mutations appeared during the rare Aurora Borealis weather events and created stunning light displays. Disco mutations could be triggered during special admin events and provided 125 times value while making crops pulse with rainbow colours. "This is going to be absolutely epic," Mason said, as he finished setting up the basement gaming area. He'd moved his computer down from his bedroom and set up 2 folding tables for Riley and Blake's laptops. The basement had no windows, which was perfect for focusing on gaming without distraction. No parents telling us to go to bed, no interruptions for dinner or chores. We can play for 12 straight hours if we want. Riley arrived first at 6 o'clock, carrying his gaming laptop in a backpack along with enough energy drinks and snacks to fuel a small army. "I've been monitoring the weather prediction channels all week," he said excitedly as he unpacked his setup. "According to the Discord bots, there are supposed to be at least 3 major thunderstorm cycles tonight across different server regions. If we time our planting perfectly, we could get shocked mutations on our divine crops. Do you know how much a shocked beanstalk would be worth?" "At least 50 billion shekels," Mason replied, his eyes lighting up. "Maybe even 100 billion if we get lucky with the multiplier." Blake showed up 20 minutes later with his own gaming laptop and a serious expression. "I've got news," he announced, pulling up Discord on his phone. "I was in the trading channels this afternoon, and someone posted that a player got the first ever celestial mutation on a transcendent bone blossom during a meteor shower. The screenshot showed it was worth over 1 trillion shekels." "1 trillion," Riley's voice cracked. "That's more money than most players see in their entire careers." "Right, and get this, the player who got it is selling it tonight. They're taking offers in a private server starting at midnight. I managed to get us invites." Blake held up his phone showing 3 Discord messages with server links. Mason felt his heart racing. A celestial transcendent bone blossom was the kind of item that players talked about in Legends. Getting one would make them famous in the Grow a Garden community. "How much do you think they want for it?" Probably more than we have, Blake admitted. But maybe we can pool our resources. Between the three of us, we've got what, 200 billion shekels? 230 billion, Mason corrected, having done the math earlier. Plus, I've got some rare pets we could include in a trade package. The three friends had been playing Grow a Garden together since it launched, learning the complex systems through trial and error. They'd mastered the basic mechanics first, planting seeds from Sam's shop, using sprinklers to boost growth speed and size, harvesting crops, and selling them to Stephen for shekels. Then they'd learned about mutations, pets, weather systems, and the complex economy that had developed around trading rare items. Mason logged into Roblox first, and the familiar sounds of Mozart's Rondo alla Turca filled the basement as Grow a Garden loaded. The classical music soundtrack was one of Mason's favourite things about the game. It made farming feel elegant and sophisticated compared to other Roblox experiences with their loud, repetitive songs. Mason spawned at his garden, which represented months of careful planning and billions of shekels in investments. The front section was dedicated to his money-making operation, perfectly arranged rows of multi-harvest crops that produced repeatedly after maturity. Strawberries, tomatoes, corn, and bell peppers stretched across dozens of plots, each one watered by carefully positioned sprinklers that boosted their size and growth speed. In the middle section, Mason kept his pet collection. 8 mooncats wandered between the crops, their passive ability giving size bonuses to all nearby plants. He also had 3 bees that helped with pollination mechanics, 2 raccoons that occasionally duplicated crops, and his prize dragonfly that increased the chance of gold mutations appearing. The back section was Mason's pride and joy, his divine crop collection. A massive beanstalk towered over everything else, its value climbing higher every day as it grew to enormous proportions. Next to it, an elder strawberry produced golden fruit every few hours, and a sugar apple glowed with internal light that cast shadows on nearby plants. "Dude, your garden looks incredible," Riley said, leaning over to look at Mason's main monitor. "I'm still saving up for a rear expansion. Those 250 million shekel price tags are brutal." Blake was already focused on his own screen, checking his garden and inventory. "We should coordinate our efforts tonight. I'll monitor the trading channels and pet markets, Riley can track weather events, and Mason can handle the shop restocks. Sam's shop is getting new inventory and..." He checked his Discord notifications. 3 minutes. The friends fell into their familiar rhythm. Every 5 minutes, one of them would sprint to Sam's shop, the green and white striped building next to the event platform where NPC Sam sold limited quantities of seeds. The shop restocked on a precise timer, and rare seeds like mythical golden eggs or divine beanstalks would sell out within seconds to the fastest clickers. "Golden egg seed available," Blake shouted as the shop restocked at exactly 7 o'clock. All 3 friends immediately teleported to the shopping area, but by the time they arrived, the rare mythical seed was already gone. "Ugh, these shop battles are impossible," Riley groaned. "The hardcore players have auto-clickers and faster internet connections. We can't compete." "Don't worry," Mason said, though he felt frustrated too. "Something good will show up eventually. We've got all night." As they settled back into their gardens, Mason noticed how different the game felt when playing with friends versus alone. During the day when he played solo, everything felt methodical and calm. But with Riley and Blake there, chatting and strategizing, the game became more exciting and social. At 8 o'clock, Riley got excited about weather patterns. "Guys, I'm seeing reports of unusual weather activity tonight. The Discord bots are tracking something called midnight rain that's supposed to happen around 11 p.m. I've never heard of that weather type before." "Maybe it's a new update," Blake suggested, not looking up from his screen where he was arranging his pet collection for optimal growth bonuses. The developers have been adding new weather events every few weeks. Remember when Aurora Borealis was first discovered? Nobody knew what it did until someone got the first Aurora mutation. Mason minimized his game to check the official Grow a Garden social media accounts, but there was no mention of new weather types. I don't see anything on Twitter or Instagram about midnight rain. Are you sure the Discord bots are reading the data correctly? The weather prediction system has never been wrong before, Riley said confidently. It pulls data directly from the game servers. If it says midnight rain is coming, something is definitely happening tonight. The friends continued playing, but Mason started noticing small oddities that made him uneasy. The classical background music seemed slightly different. Still Mozart, but the tempo was slower and the notes had an almost echoing quality. When he mentioned it to his friends, they said their music sounded normal. At 9:30, Blake received a friend request that changed the course of their night. Someone named Garden Keeper just added me, he announced. Their profile shows they've been playing since day one, and their status says they have secrets to share with dedicated gardeners. Sounds like a scammer to me, Riley warned. Remember all those fake accounts that tried to get people to give away their pets for duplication glitches that never worked? But Blake was intrigued. Their profile looks legitimate. They have screenshots of crops I've never seen before. Plants that look like they're from a completely different version of the game. And check this out. He shared his screen, showing Garden Keeper's profile picture. A garden that stretched beyond the normal map boundaries, filled with plants that seemed to glow with their own light. Those plants look amazing, Mason admitted. But I've never seen anything like them in the official crop catalogue. Maybe they're from a test server or developer preview. Almost immediately after Blake accepted the friend request, he received a private message. I've been watching you three. You're truly dedicated to the art of gardening. Would you like to see something that most players never discover? Meet me at the event platform in server 47 at exactly 10 o'clock. Riley shook his head. This feels like a trap. Why would a random player want to meet us specifically? But what if it's real? Blake countered. What if there really are secret areas or hidden crops we don't know about? We've explored every inch of the normal map. Maybe there's more to discover. Mason felt torn between curiosity and caution. The rational part of his brain agreed with Riley. This could easily be a scam or worse. But the part of him that lived for rare discoveries and secret game mechanics was intensely curious about what Garden Keeper might show them. Let's do it, Mason decided. But we all go together, and if anything seems wrong, we leave immediately. Deal? Deal, his friends agreed. At exactly 10 o'clock, the three friends joined server 47 and teleported to the event platform in the center of the map. The server seemed strangely quiet compared to the usual bustle of players running between shops and gardens. Instead of dozens of people farming and trading, there were only 5 or 6 other players scattered across the enormous map. Garden Keeper was waiting for them at the platform, their avatar looking completely normal, except for their username, which seemed to flicker occasionally like a broken neon sign. They were wearing standard Roblox clothing and had no special accessories or animations that would indicate developer status. Thank you for coming, Garden Keeper typed in the public chat. I have something amazing to show you, but it requires absolute trust. Are you brave enough to venture beyond the known boundaries of this world? Instead of leading them to one of the standard garden areas or shops, Garden Keeper began walking toward the edge of the map. Mason had explored every inch of Grow a Garden over the past 6 months, and he knew there were invisible walls that prevented players from leaving the main game area. But as they followed Garden Keeper, something impossible happened. They walked right through where the boundary should have been. How are we able to go past the map edge? Riley asked in voice chat, his tone nervous but fascinated. I don't know, Mason replied, watching his character continue walking into what should have been empty space. Maybe it's a glitch, or maybe there really are hidden areas. The normal bright, cheerful graphics of Grow a Garden began to change as they walked further from the main map. The sky shifted from its usual blue to a deep purple, and fog began rolling in from all directions. The classical music faded until it was barely audible, replaced by a low humming sound that seemed to vibrate through their headphones. "This doesn't feel right," Blake said, his voice tight with worry. "Maybe we should turn back." But when Mason tried to turn his character around, the movement controls wouldn't respond. Riley and Blake had the same problem. They could only move forward, following Garden Keeper deeper into the mysterious fog. "Don't be afraid," Garden Keeper typed, though Mason noticed their username was flickering more rapidly now. "You're about to see the most beautiful garden ever created, a place where crops grow without limits, where mutations appear constantly, where dedicated gardeners can tend their plants forever without interruption." The fog began to clear, revealing something that took Mason's breath away. Before them stretched the largest garden he had ever seen, not just larger than anything in the normal game, but larger than seemed possible within Roblox's technical limitations. Thousands upon thousands of crop plots extended in every direction, filled with plants that defied everything Mason knew about the game's mechanics. These weren't the familiar strawberries, carrots, and beanstalks from the normal game. These plants seemed to be made of pure light and shadow, shifting and changing colours as they grew. Some stretched impossibly high into the purple sky, while others spread across dozens of plots like living carpets of vegetation. "What kind of crops are those?" Blake asked in chat, his voice filled with awe. Garden Keeper's avatar suddenly turned to face them, and Mason saw that their characters' eyes had changed. Instead of the normal Roblox avatar eyes, these were completely black. Not just dark, but empty voids that seemed to absorb light. "These are midnight crops," came a voice that wasn't coming through Discord or the game's chat system. The voice seemed to speak directly into their headphones, bypassing all normal audio channels. "They grow only in the darkest hours, when the boundary between the digital world and reality becomes thin. They feed on something much more valuable than shekels or water." Riley's voice cracked with fear. "Mason, something's really wrong here. My character won't respond to commands. And that voice, it's not coming from the game." Mason tried desperately to access his game menus, but nothing worked. The escape key did nothing. Alt+Tab wouldn't switch windows. Even Ctrl+Alt+Delete failed to bring up the task manager. They were trapped in this nightmare version of their favourite game. "You've been such dedicated gardeners," the voice continued, and now Garden Keeper's avatar began to grow larger, stretching upward until it towered over them like a giant. "Hours every day, caring for your virtual plants, feeding them your time and attention and dreams. But wouldn't it be wonderful if you never had to stop? If you could tend your gardens forever, without the interruptions of sleep or school or the real world?" As the entity spoke, the midnight crops began to glow with an eerie light, and Mason noticed that each plant had a small nameplate floating above it. But these weren't crop names, they were usernames. Jessica Farmer, Tyler Plants, Sarah Grows, Mike Gardner. They looked like the usernames of other players, but corrupted and twisted. "Those are other kids," Blake whispered, his voice barely audible through Discord. "Those things used to be other players." Mason felt ice-cold fear spreading through his chest as he realized what they were seeing. Each midnight crop represented a player who had been trapped in this dark version of the game, transformed into a virtual plant and forced to exist as part of this horrible garden. "Don't be afraid," Garden Keeper said, their voice now echoing with supernatural power. "You're going to love it here. No more homework, no more bedtimes, no more parents interrupting your gaming sessions, just endless gardening in the peaceful midnight hours. Your friends are here too. You'll never be alone." Riley's character began to change before their eyes. His normal Roblox avatar skin was being replaced with something that looked like bark and leaves. Digital vines began wrapping around his limbs, and his username started flickering between Riley and Riley Midnight Grow. "Help me!" Riley shouted through Discord, I can't control my character. Something's taking over. Blake's avatar was transforming too, his clothing disappearing as his body became more plant-like. Flowers began sprouting from his head, and his arms stretched into branch-like appendages. I can't leave the game, he screamed. The window won't close. My computer won't shut down. Mason watched in horror as his two best friends were being absorbed into the nightmare garden, their avatars becoming another set of midnight crops with their usernames corrupted into digital plant markers. Your turn, Garden Keeper said, turning their massive form toward Mason. Their black void eyes seemed to stare directly through the computer screen and into Mason's soul. Don't worry about your friends. They'll be here when you complete your transformation. You'll all tend the Midnight Garden together for eternity. Mason felt his own character beginning to change. His avatar's skin took on a greenish tint, and small roots began growing from his feet, anchoring him to the virtual soil. His movement controls became even more unresponsive as the transformation tried to claim him. But something deep inside Mason rebelled against what was happening. This wasn't just a game anymore. This was something evil trying to trap him and his friends in a digital prison. He thought about Riley and Blake, sitting right next to him in his basement. Their real bodies, still there, even as their avatars were being corrupted. You're not taking my friends, Mason said out loud, his voice filled with determination. Games are supposed to be fun, not prison cells, and friends don't abandon each other even in nightmares. Mason grabbed his computer tower with both hands and shook it violently. The screen flickered and error messages began cascading across the display. Strange sounds emerged from his speakers, not the classical music or the entity's voice, but what sounded like digital screaming mixed with the sound of breaking code. Stop! Garden Keeper's voice became distorted and furious. You cannot break the Midnight Garden. The crops must be tended. The harvest must continue. But Mason kept shaking his computer, and now Riley and Blake were following his lead with their laptops. The basement filled with the smell of overheating electronics as sparks began flying from power cords, and cooling fans spun wildly, trying to cope with the system stress. Whatever's happening to us, we're getting out together, Mason yelled over the digital chaos. I don't care if we break our computers. Our friendship is worth more than any game. The screens went completely black for several seconds, then suddenly blazed with brilliant white light that was almost blinding in the dark basement. The three friends heard a sound like reality itself tearing apart, followed by a noise like a million windows shattering at once. When their vision cleared and the spots faded from their eyes, they found themselves back in the normal Grow a Garden game. Mozart's music was playing peacefully. Their gardens were exactly as they had left them, and other players were going about their usual farming activities as if nothing had happened. But something was different. The game felt lighter somehow, like a repressive weight had been lifted from the entire virtual world. The colours seemed brighter, the music more cheerful, and even the other players seemed to be moving with more energy and joy. What the hell just happened? Blake asked, his voice shaky as he checked his character and inventory. I think we almost got trapped in some kind of nightmare version of the game, Mason replied, his hands still trembling from adrenaline. But we escaped because we refused to abandon each other. Riley was examining his avatar and garden, making sure everything was still normal. Look at this, he said suddenly. I have a new seed in my inventory that wasn't there before. Mason and Blake checked their own inventories and found the same thing, a seed they had never seen before called Friendship Blossom. The item description read, a special crop that grows only for those who prove their loyalty to true friendship, cannot be bought, sold, or traded, blooms with the light of unbreakable bonds. Without discussing it, all three friends planted their friendship blossoms in their gardens at exactly the same moment. The seeds grew instantly, bypassing all normal growth mechanics and becoming beautiful flowers that pulsed with warm, golden light. Unlike every other crop in the game, the friendship blossoms didn't have shekel values or mutation chances. They weren't part of the economy or progression system. They simply existed as a reminder of what really mattered. Not rare items or virtual wealth, but the bonds between real friends. Other players in the server immediately noticed the new flowers and began gathering around their gardens. Chat messages flew by, asking where they had gotten such amazing plants and how much they were worth. "You can't buy them," Mason typed in response to the questions. "You have to earn them by being a true friend." From that night forward, Mason, Riley, and Blake continued playing Grow a Garden together, but they approached the game differently. They were more cautious about accepting friend requests from strangers, more suspicious of offers that seemed too good to be true, and more protective of each other when exploring new areas or trying new features. The experience had taught them that the most valuable things in any game aren't the rarest items or the biggest profits. They're the friends you play with and the memories you create together. No virtual achievement was worth risking real friendship, and no digital reward could replace the feeling of knowing that someone would fight for you when things got scary. The friendship blossoms remained in their gardens permanently, unable to be harvested or sold. Other players would occasionally ask about them, and the three friends always gave the same advice. Stick with friends you trust. Never abandon someone in trouble. And remember that games are meant to bring people together, not tear them apart. Word of their experience spread through the Grow a Garden community, though many players dismissed it as an elaborate prank or creepypasta story. But some players reached out privately, sharing their own encounters with strange areas of the game, mysterious friend requests, or invitations to secret servers that felt wrong in ways they couldn't explain. Mason, Riley, and Blake started an informal support network for players who had experienced similar things. They created a Discord server called Garden Safety, where people could report suspicious activity and get advice about staying safe while gaming. The server grew to hundreds of members, all committed to protecting each other from digital predators and keeping their favorite game a positive place for everyone. The friends also became more aware of how much time they spent gaming. While they still loved Grow a Garden and played regularly, they made sure to balance it with other activities, time with family, and face-to-face social interaction. The nightmare had shown them what could happen when virtual worlds became more important than real life. Months later, the three friends would still get together for weekend gaming sessions, but they always included breaks for pizza, movies, or just talking about life outside of games. They had learned that the best adventures aren't just the ones you have in virtual worlds, but the ones you share with people who care about you in the real world. The Midnight Garden was never seen again, at least not by them. But Mason knew it was still out there somewhere, waiting for players who valued virtual achievements more than real friendship, or who were willing to sacrifice others for personal gain. The entity that had tried to trap them probably moved on to other games, other platforms, always looking for new victims to add to its collection. But as long as players like Mason, Riley, and Blake were around to warn others and help protect the community, the digital predators would find it harder to succeed. True friendship, they had learned, was the best defense against any kind of darkness, virtual or real. But the story wasn't quite over yet. 3 weeks after their encounter with the Midnight Garden, something unexpected happened that reminded them how far their friendship had come. Mason was in his room doing homework when he received a Discord message from a username he didn't recognize. Night Gardener returns. The profile picture was completely black, and the message was brief but chilling. You thought you could stop us? The midnight harvest never ends. Tonight, one of your friends will join our collection. Mason's blood ran cold as he immediately called Riley and Blake on a 3-way video chat. Did you guys get a message from someone called Night Gardener Returns? Mason asked as soon as they answered. Riley looked confused. No, why? What did it say? Blake shook his head too. I haven't gotten any weird messages today. What's going on? Mason shared his screen showing the message, and both friends went silent. The entity from the Midnight Garden hadn't been destroyed. It was still out there, still trying to collect players for its twisted garden. "We need to stick together," Blake said firmly. "If this thing is targeting us again, we can't give it a chance to separate us." "Agreed," Riley nodded. "From now on, none of us play any games alone, especially at night. And if anyone gets weird friend requests or messages, we tell the others immediately." Over the next few weeks, they noticed an increase in suspicious activity across the Grow a Garden community. Players reported strange friend requests from accounts with corrupted usernames, invitations to mysterious private servers, and sightings of the Midnight Garden area in different servers. The entity was expanding its operation, trying to trap more players. The three friends worked with the Discord moderators and game administrators to document these incidents and warn other players. They created guides on how to identify suspicious accounts, what to do if invited to strange servers, and how to report dangerous players or areas. Their Garden Safety Discord server grew from hundreds to thousands of members as word spread about their work protecting the community. Parents started joining to learn how to keep their children safe while gaming, and other games communities reached out for advice on handling similar threats. Mason realized that their terrifying experience had given them something valuable: the knowledge and motivation to help protect other young gamers from digital predators. What had started as a nightmare had transformed into a mission to make online gaming safer for everyone. One evening, about 2 months after the Midnight Garden incident, something wonderful happened that showed how much their experience had changed them. Mason was playing Grow a Garden normally, tending his crops and checking for rare seeds, when he noticed a new player in the server who seemed confused and overwhelmed. The player, whose username was newfarmerhelp, was standing in the center of the map, looking lost. Mason approached them and typed in chat, "Hey, are you new to the game? Need any help getting started?" "Yes, please," came the immediate reply. "I just started playing and I have no idea what I'm doing. Everyone else seems so advanced." Instead of just giving quick advice and moving on like he might have done before, Mason took the time to really help. He invited Riley and Blake to join them, and the three friends spent over an hour teaching the new player the basics of farming, explaining the shop system, showing them how to arrange their garden efficiently, and warning them about common scams. "You guys are so nice," New Farmer Help typed. "Most people just ignore new players or try to trick them into bad trades." "Everyone deserves a chance to learn and have fun," Mason replied. "Just remember, if anyone ever tries to get you to go to weird areas of the game or asks for your personal information, don't do it. Find trusted friends to play with and always ask for help if something seems wrong." They added the new player to their friends list and invited them to their Garden Safety Discord server, where experienced players mentored newcomers and shared safe gaming practices. Helping New Farmer Help reminded Mason why he loved gaming in the first place. Not for rare items or virtual wealth, but for the sense of community and the friendships that could develop between players who supported each other. As the months passed, the three friends noticed that their approach to gaming had fundamentally changed. They still enjoyed Grow a Garden and played regularly, but they were more mindful about balancing gaming with other activities. They made sure to spend time together outside of games, studying together, going to movies, playing sports, and just hanging out. Their friendship had been tested by something truly terrifying, and they had emerged stronger and more committed to each other. They had learned that real courage wasn't about being fearless. It was about doing the right thing even when you were scared, and never abandoning the people you cared about. The friendship blossoms in their gardens remained as permanent reminders of what they had overcome together. Other players would ask about them, and Mason, Riley, and Blake would always tell the same story, about three friends who had faced something evil and had chosen to protect each other rather than save themselves. Their story became part of Grow a Garden folklore, passed down through the community as both a warning about online dangers and an inspiration about the power of true friendship. New players would hear about the Midnight Garden and the friendship blossoms, learning valuable lessons about staying safe while gaming and valuing real relationships over virtual achievements. Years later, when Mason was studying computer science in college, he would remember that night as the experience that taught him the most important lesson of his life. That technology should bring people together, not drive them apart, and that the best treasures you can find in any virtual world are the friends who will stand by you in the real one. Riley went on to study cybersecurity, motivated by their experience to help protect other young people from online predators. Blake became a community manager for a gaming company, using his skills to create safer, more welcoming environments for players of all ages. But most importantly, the three of them remained close friends throughout high school, college, and beyond. They would still game together regularly, always remembering the lessons they had learned about loyalty, courage, and the importance of looking out for each other. Sometimes, late at night, when they were playing together, one of them would joke about the midnight garden, and they would all laugh, not because it hadn't been terrifying, but because they had faced it together and come out stronger on the other side. Their friendship had been forged in a digital nightmare, tested by supernatural evil, and proven unbreakable by their willingness to sacrifice for each other. It was a bond that no amount of virtual wealth could buy, and no digital threat could break. And whenever young gamers asked them for advice about online safety, they would always give the same answer. Find friends you can trust, stick together when things get scary, and remember that the real world and the people in it are always more important than any game. The Midnight Garden might still be out there somewhere, waiting for new victims, but Mason, Riley, and Blake had proven that with true friendship and courage, even the darkest digital nightmares could be overcome. And that lesson, that love and loyalty were stronger than fear and evil, was worth more than all the shekels in the virtual world. The end.